Hi, welcome back to the Question Christ Project. I'm Pete. Okay, we're going to be answering Katalyzt's question today about people being innocent, being cursed. You can read his questions on the page as you see it. For people who don't know the background, Abraham and Sarah were married. And when they went to two different foreign lands, one because there was a famine, another time because they were visiting this foreign land, even though God had told Abraham he would protect him, Abraham still lied and told Sarah to say that Sarah was his sister instead of his wife. This would protect Abraham from being killed if for some reason someone wanted to marry Sarah, if they wanted to take her into their harem, especially big leaders, they would have to kill Abraham. So Abraham didn't want any of that, so he said, just tell them you're my sister, because she was very beautiful, and he thought that'd be a possibility. And in both these situations, because they thought Abraham was her brother, not her husband, they went to take her as their wife, and there was these curses coming down on their families. So that's where we're at with the background. Okay, so Katalyzt, the first thing I'd like to say is, in this situation, is that the point that God honors free choice. And I'm going to be reading things that I wrote down because I'm new to this, so bear with me. Hopefully as we go along, I'll get a little bit better with the eye contact. When Abraham was chosen by God, he didn't automatically make him a robot to do his bidding. That's one of the greatest things about God. He gives us free will to choose to enter a relationship with him or not. And Abraham was still a flawed human being. As you see throughout the Bible, God uses flawed human beings, and it's one of the most comforting parts of the Bible. And even though God had promised to protect him, Abraham still chose to do it his way. And Abraham's lying directly affected Abimelech and Pharaoh in a very negative way. So one of the main points here is that our sinful behavior can have terrible consequences for those around us, people who did nothing to us, or people that we don't think would be affected by our personal sinning. It can have a devastating effect on all those around us, even though we don't intend that to happen. The other thing I'd like to say is Abraham didn't get off scot-free. If you look at the situation in Egypt, he came to Egypt due to a famine. He was in a very comfortable place in Egypt. There was plenty to go around, and he was actually in a position of honor because everyone thought he was Sarah's brother. And when he was found out, not only was he found out, but he was thrown out. He was thrown out of Egypt. And they threw him out in the same direction he came in. So he was going back towards where that famine was. So even though he got through it okay, God got him through it okay, there still was, I'm sure, that moment of panic, like, whoa, I screwed up here, and now I'm getting thrown back into where I came from. There's a reason why he came to Egypt. And they threw him back the same direction. So although he was okay, eventually he still must have been terrified, and so there are repercussions for our sin. Was Abimelech and Pharaoh innocent? Though Abimelech and Pharaoh didn't do anything to Abraham directly, I wouldn't necessarily say they're innocent. I wouldn't necessarily say anyone is innocent. If you read Romans chapter 3, verse 23, it says, "For everyone has sinned, we all fall short of God's glorious standards." I'm using the New Living Translation, and I will throughout the rest of these videos. All of us have lied. All of us have cheated in some way. All of us probably have stolen something. All of us have been selfish. And all of us have tried to do it our way instead of God's, even Christians. Pride is probably the father of all sinning, because you're saying, I don't need anybody. And that goes for God as well. Thinking you can do it on your own without God is a major sin. And being leaders of nations, I would hypothesize that it's quite possible that they needed these events in their lives to put their lives in perspective a little bit. Pharaohs were often seen on the level of gods. So if you're already seen as a god, you might need a little reality check that you're not. So was it uncomfortable for them? Absolutely. But I definitely think it might have been used for that situation. So Abraham sins. He lies. It's no fault of Abimelech and Pharaoh. But God uses all things for good. Though Abraham sinned by lying, these two situations grew the faith of these two leaders. It had to have. Especially in Abimelech's case. God came to Abimelech in a dream to warn Abimelech not to sleep with Sarah. So in Genesis 20, verses 6 and 7, quote, "In the dream God responded, 'Yes, I know you are innocent.'" That he's talking to Abimelech here. "Yes, I know you are innocent. That's why I kept you from sinning against me, and why I didn't let you touch her. Now return the woman to her husband, Abraham, and he will pray for you, for he is a prophet. Then you will live. But if you don't return her to him, you can be sure that you and all your people will die." Even though it was uncomfortable for Abimelech, it definitely got his attention. I think it's safe to say that by being visited by God in a dream, and then seeing that God honors what he says after you do what he asks of you, is a very big faith-building experience. Notice God says that Abraham will pray for him. And Abraham did that. Genesis 20, verses 17 and 18. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants so they could have children. For the Lord had caused all the women to be infertile because of what happened with Abraham's wife Sarah. I'm sure Abimelech had no doubt that God was real, and that he was faithful to his word after that. So out of a sinful decision that Abraham made, God used that unfortunate occasion to build Abimelech's faith. It was a little, unsettling for him, but nonetheless, I think it helped him greatly. And the other thing, one major thing that people hate to hear, is that God is mainly concerned about your eternal salvation, not your earthly comfort. People hate this. If you see this earth as the only reality, it doesn't make any sense. But when you realize, if you believe in God, you realize sometimes, like a loving father who disciplines their children, God's going to make you deal with the consequences of your sinful actions. And he's done that in my life. But in these moments, we learn. And about 10 years ago, I was in a situation where I was in a relationship, and I was very deeply hurt by the person in the relationship. What they did to me, was not warranted. And so in that way, I was innocent. But the life I was leading was totally in rebellion against God, totally sinful life that I was leading. And so because I was hurt so bad that I felt that I couldn't do it on my own, and I needed God, and that's when I started really changing my life around. So I was innocent from that situation, but I was not innocent the way I was living. And so sometimes, unfortunately, when we're living a prideful, sinful life, or trying to do it on our own, sometimes we need, a little bit of correction. Sometimes things happen to us that are not warranted at all, but God does try to bring all things to good. So, the big points are: God honors free choice. Our sinful behavior can be devastating to others. All of us fall short. No one is innocent. God uses all things for good, and God is concerned about our salvation, not earthly comfort. So, hope to hear more about you. I will answer your other question about what book is the best book to show that God is a just God. And I thank you for your question.